Hi everyone, and welcome to Moxxie Life Coaching. I'm Michelle, and I'll be your host as we explore what life coaching is and how it can empower you to create and live your best life. We'll talk about topics ranging from our own self-defeating behaviors to getting to know our authentic selves. Together, we'll investigate a variety of self-coaching modalities and explore a wide range of topics relevant to getting the most out of the life that you are actively creating. New episodes will drop every Tuesday, so please subscribe so you don't miss out on the great hints, tips, and tricks, and generally awesome content that will help you create your best life. So welcome, and thank you for listening. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Moxxie Coaching Podcast. My name is Michelle, and I'm your host. Today, we are going to talk about why self-coaching with the tarot should be in your personal toolbox. I've been putting out just a few podcasts here and there about how to use the tarot with your self-coaching, and I thought that perhaps it would be a good idea to explain to you all why I think it is such a good idea and such an excellent tool for self-discovery. I also wanted to let you all know that if self-coaching with the tarot is something that you find interesting, something that you think would provide value in your own life, I just wanted to make you aware of the fact that there will be an additional series of far more detailed self-coaching with the tarot podcast episodes that will be coming out. And there will also be a full curriculum available online on the Thinkific website that will walk you through the entire curriculum if you should so choose. So if you are interested in getting access to that curriculum when it drops, I'd recommend that you head on over to the Moxxie Coaching website at www.moxxiecoaching.com and complete the subscription sign-up form. And then you'll be sure to receive everything, and you'll be the first people to know about when these courses are dropping. The plan is to develop a free course that will be an introduction to the whole curriculum, and then there will be a series of additional courses that you can take, either one or all, if you want to follow through the entire curriculum. So just wanted to let you know that that will be available. It will take me a while to get everything put together. I'm in the process right now of working on the introductory class, and I will be sure to let you know when that is available. So let's get into the meat of today's podcast episode. Wanted to make really clear that while I am a huge advocate of self-coaching with the tarot, I do not believe that it is a substitute for professional therapy, for professional coaching, for anyone who needs that level of support. I look at the self-coaching far more as a supplement to either traditional coaching or traditional therapy, or if that is something that you're not interested in, or maybe it's a little too expensive, I wanted to provide an opportunity for everyone to access this information and access this, at least the core concepts, because I truly, truly do believe that it's a valuable approach to getting to know ourselves better. And as I think we all would agree, the better we know ourselves, the better it is to navigate pretty much everything. So here are 9 reasons why self-coaching with the tarot should be in your toolbox. First of all, using the tarot in your self-coaching provides a nice structure for getting started. It provides uh, a framework for asking questions and examining our feelings and coming up with a potential solution. So, for example, let's say that I am struggling with how to handle a particular situation, and it's been on my mind for a while, and I'm struggling with how to manage it. Let's say it's a work situation, and I'm working with a client who can be challenging. And rather than basically quit the client, rather than give up on a business opportunity, I want to try and figure out how better to work with this client. So using the tarot to explore what's going on with that client or how I can better approach that client or how I can change my approach to a way that will be more appealing to the client. Tarot is great for that kind of stuff. It's great for asking questions and providing guidance. And the trick is to ask the appropriate type of questions, and we'll talk about that in a different podcast because it truly is, it really is important in terms of you're getting the most out of the self-coaching. Number 2, using tarot and self-coaching points out things that we might not necessarily want to look at, but things that we need to look at. So I would equate it to, again, the coach who says, I know you pretty well by now, and that's a bunch of crap. And the tarot cards will do the same thing for you, or to you, or with you, or however you want to look at it. The cards will, some people say the cards just absolutely kick their butts on some days. So there is a relationship that's developed, and we'll get the most out of that relationship if we're willing to see and really look at whatever the tarot's putting in front of us, because as we know, the tarot functions, or the cards that we are pulling are being pulled based on the energy that we're exuding at the time. So whether you look at it from a physics perspective, whether you look at it from a spirit guide perspective, however you want to look at it, it's fine. But the cards will bring up things that you need to look at in your life. And then it's up to you at that point whether or not you want to pick up that challenge. The third thing is that tarot takes us out of the role of victim. It can be really easy, particularly when we are either between coaching or therapy sessions, or if we're not working with a coach, to see sometimes when we're putting ourselves in that position of playing the victim. Cards are all about empowerment, and they will not allow you to play the victim. The whole concept is to take a look at your situation and to identify some solutions for moving past that situation using the tarot. So if you know that you have a tendency to play the victim a little bit, and I think honestly all of us do on occasion, this is a good tool to use to force you into a little bit of a reality check. And again, these are all very big generalizations, and the details about how they're exactly useful will start to appear throughout the course of these next number of podcasts. The tarot is incredibly complex. It's incredibly detailed and rich. You can get a ton out of it if you're willing to dive in deep. If you are not willing to dive in deep, you're still able to use it as a tool to tell you what you need to look at. And you're also able to use it as a tool for suggesting ways of approaching certain situations. Number 4, knowing ourselves better results in higher quality relationships, interpersonal interactions, better self-image, stronger ability just simply to navigate life's challenges. The better we know the better we know ourselves, the easier that is. So let's say that I recognize that I have an issue with procrastination, and I have a big project coming up, and for whatever reason, this project has been particularly confrontational for me, and I've been putting it off even more than I normally would. I could pull some cards and use those cards to illustrate potentially why I am poking around, why I haven't taken the bulls by the horn, why I haven't jumped into this project. What is it about this particular project that is causing me even more procrastination angst than normal? And another example, let's say that you met someone in a work situation, and for some reason that person just does not seem to care for you, and it's going to be important for you to work with this person on whatever project. Maybe you have had just a brief interaction and the vibe that you got from this person is just off. The more we get to know the more we get to know ourselves, the easier it is for us to recognize when a situation is off, whether it's our stuff or whether it's someone else's stuff. So this person is going to be on your team, and they don't like you. What you can do is take your cards and use those cards to suggest some strategies for better working with this particular person. The cards may show you, or probably will show you, strategies for how you can be and how you can change your behavior to accommodate this person. And I'm not saying that the tarot is going to tell you every time that you have to be the one to back down or that you have to be the one to accommodate other people. But what it will do is help you gain more of an understanding of how to deal with a particular situation. Sometimes it's going to be a situation where the easiest thing to do and the most productive thing to do is just to back off and continue working on the project. It doesn't really matter if that person likes you or not, as long as you're getting the project completed on time. I alluded to number 5 a little bit earlier and just wanted to reiterate that if you are not working with a professional coach or if you're not working with a professional therapist, the tarot can be a great way of beginning that process of self-discovery, even without the benefit of having that coach or without the benefit of having that therapist. I have been using tarot for self-coaching for probably 3 or 4 years now. And while I greatly value my relationship with my coach, And I do believe that my relationship with her has helped me and empowered me to move my life forward in ways that I want it to move forward. I also recognize that I was able to do quite a bit of work on my own before I actually started to work with her. So it's an excellent tool to get started. And it is also a way for you to tap into some of this stuff and to start getting a feel for coaching and a feel for personal development in a way that doesn't cost you anything. And that's very important to me because there were times in my life when I could not afford personal coaching, and using my tarot cards was a blessing. It was a way to help me at least move myself in the right direction and see the trends in my life and those types of things. And we'll talk more about that later on in this podcast. Number 6, using self-coaching with the tarot is also a way to help you participate more fully in whatever coaching, therapy, mentoring situation you have. Because as I said, the more we know the more we know ourselves, the more we're willing to look at the stuff we don't want to look at, the more we're able to accomplish, essentially. And so the combination of having the coach, mentor, therapist who is holding you to account and helping you move things forward with the personal work that you've either already done or that you continue to do is really kind of like a double, like a bang for your buck kind of thing, where you get more consistently good results when you have put the work in on your own end. I think I mentioned number 7 earlier, which is using the tarot as a tool between coaching sessions or between therapy, mentoring sessions, as some sort of supplemental tool that you have that you can whip out your tarot deck when you're struggling with something and you either don't have an appointment or can't get a hold of someone or just want to sort of start exploring something that's going on in your life before you have a meeting with your personal coach, therapist, mentor. Number 8, this is one of my favorite things about working with the tarot, is that it helps you develop your intuition. And you can call it your intuition, you can call it your connection to your spirit guide, you can call it your voice from God. It does not matter in the least what you call it. The point is that whatever that is further developed. And throughout my tenure with the tarot, my intuition and my gut check feelings have become so much more accurate, so much more recognizable, in that I'll get a short little psychic download. It could be something completely mundane. Gosh, a good example, I was leaving my office not too long ago and I just had this flash that make sure you have your keys in your hand or you're going to lock yourself out of the office. Now, I can't say for sure that I wouldn't have had my keys in my hand, and I can't say for sure that I would have indeed locked myself out of my office, but I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, when I don't listen to that little download or that little input, I'm sorry I didn't. Those are the times when I do lock my keys in my office, or those are the times when whatever, X, Y, or Z, right? So having that connection using the tarot cards, for me anyway, really helped me develop that connection and develop that relationship with spirit, intuition, guides, whatever. And That has been one of the most valuable things for me personally. Okay, the last thing on the list is number 9. And this is another thing that I have found personally extremely valuable. And that is the cards will help you if you listen to them. The cards will help you better respond to something than react to something. And there's a very big difference. When we respond to something, we are thoughtfully speaking, acting, behaving in a way that addresses whatever the situation is. When we react to something, we are far, far more likely to react from the primal amygdala in our brain, basically. The old lizard brain that puts us in a place of fight or flight, that we react quickly and we move forward because we don't want to get eaten by the tiger. Well, daily life typically does not endanger or place us in danger of being eaten by a tiger. Our human evolution has not really caught up with the fact that most of us have lives that we may never even see a lion or a tiger in the wild, let alone worry about being eaten by one. Nevertheless, that amygdala, that reaction, that gut check, fight or flight protective thing is definitely still there. So by getting to know yourself better, by getting to know how you react and when you react and when you're able to respond, all of those things will make your life so much more smooth, particularly, in my experience, your relationship with other people. Because thoughtfully responding to something, as opposed to jumping to a reaction, is almost always far, far, far more productive than just responding based on what our gut or our amygdala says. Okay, so those are, I think I said 9, the 9 reasons that self-coaching with the tarot should be in your personal growth toolbox. Additionally, I wanted to talk a bit about journaling and how journaling in conjunction with the tarot is the best way to work through some self-coaching. I very, very strongly recommend journaling for anyone, but particularly when you are starting to work with the cards, because it's easier to be in the role of the observer when you are journaling. And if you can be in the role of the observer, if you can somewhat step out of your head and observe the way you are either responding or reacting to something, it's easier to rein yourself back in and move yourself forward in a positive and productive manner. Now, I feel like I need to clarify my definition of a journal in this context. I'm not talking about a diary. I'm not talking about a place where you dump your feelings, or we dump our feelings when we're frustrated or whatever. I'm talking more about like a growth tracking journal. And if you do a daily reading, that gives you a starting point for that day's entry into your journal. I also would say that this is not about writing well. It's not about even writing complete sentences. In this context, the journal is more about capturing your thoughts, capturing your feelings, identifying which direction you're moving in, analyzing what's working for yourself, what's not working for yourself, and those types of things far more than, like I said, the angsty diary. My journal is very different depending on whatever page you look at. So for example, I have probably 2/3 of my readings are just very quick 3-card readings. I do know what the tarot cards mean, so I don't write down the definition. I don't do any of that. I just look at it and say, oh, okay, this is what was going on that day or that moment. Other entries are maybe 2 or 3 pages long, full of notes and little drawings and stickers and all kinds of things. But even those longer journal entries, I wouldn't even ask my worst enemy to try to make sense out of them. There is, in my opinion, something to be said for when you do get into that type of mode where you need to write more than just a few bullet points. Not editing or not throttling your own thoughts when you're writing tends to keep the brain more open and available and willing to explore different options. I hesitate to call it a guided, guided by this or guided by that. Some people talk about it as sort of feeling like automatic writing, where you just begin to write and you don't contextualize it, you don't think about it, you don't process it, you don't edit it in your head, you don't do anything. All you're doing is recording the information. And that, I will say, for those times when you do decide that you have more to write, maybe you discovered something about yourself through yesterday's reading and you want to share that in your growth tracking journal. Great. All I'm saying is, just from the standpoint of having a clear understanding of what this is, it is definitely not your traditional, write about your life so you can write your memoirs when you're 90 type of journal. So you're ready to get started with your journal, and you are clear that it is not your normal teenage angsty diary. But what is it, and how do you do it? All I can tell you is how I do it. I would guess that among the millions of people out there who practice the tarot, there are at least 500,000 different ways of using it. Excuse me. So this is how I do it, and I would recommend maybe you start doing it this way, and then once you decide what you like, what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, clearly you can change it up, but this will give you a starting point. I do a very simple 3-card spread every day. The individual cards do not have specific designations, meaning I do not say this card is about my past and this card is about my future and this card is about what's happening right now. Instead, I prefer, especially in a daily reading type of setting, just a general, what would you have me know today? And that's the question that I ask. And asking the question that way in such a broad manner really allows for the broadest reading and provides you the most, I think, accurate picture of your energy at that moment and energy over time, right? Because you're recording it every day, so you can see how things have been working out for you or how things have not been working out for you. it's so interesting to watch the card trends over time. I've noticed that the cards tend to come up in repetitive batches depending on what's going on in my life. So it might be I get the same card every day for 2 or 3 days, or over the course of a week, I get 2 or 3 of the same cards in my reading every day. And as far as I'm concerned, something that's showing up that consistently is definitely something I should be paying attention to. Okay, so you have your cards in front of you and you're ready to do your 3-card spread. You're asking, what would you have me know today? And what you're going to do is you're just simply going to look at the cards and write down any thoughts or words or impressions about the cards that come to mind. I apologize, I have a little scratchy, froggy throat this morning, so I do apologize. Okay, back on track. So you're going to ask the cards what they would like you to know today, and you're just simply going to be recording your thoughts, your emotions, how a card may make you feel, how a card may trigger a memory, how a card may trigger a feeling. You could also write down your impressions of the card. For example, the card, let's say it's the sun, and the sun is in the Rider-Smith Waite deck, an image of a little naked child bopping around on the back of a white horse with, just great energy and happiness and glee and joy. Well, how does that card make you feel? And why do you think that card might be coming up for you today? Maybe you are just on a roll and you're having a great week, and that's why that card came up. So clearly that's a little bit more beneficial when the cards that keep coming up are cards that are a little bit more challenging for us. Perhaps you have a card that keeps coming up that points to your, I don't know, your fear of failure, or a card that continues to come up that points to a bad habit that you have, or something along those lines. This method can be used for those of you who are currently reading cards. It can also be used for those of you who do not know the card meanings. And if you are someone who's interested in dipping their toe into the tarot from that perspective, this is an excellent way to learn how to read the cards. Because what it does is your first impressions of these cards, your intuitive impressions of these cards, are what you're paying attention to right now. We're not worrying about card designations. We're not worrying about specific card meanings. All we're doing is familiarizing you with your deck, getting you comfortable with doing a daily reading, getting you into the habit of doing a daily reading, getting you to the point where you start to recognize some of the cards. And in the process, you are creating your own quote unquote library of card meanings. And yes, there are traditional card meanings. And yes, we will move on to the traditional card meanings and integrating those with this type of reading that does not involve knowing the card meanings. But for now, for anyone who wants to get started, this is a great way to do it in a way that isn't so intimidating. I think I learned the hard way. I'm old school. I made myself flashcards and I just drilled myself on those flashcards. And it was great, and it was a very quick way to learn. And I don't think it's necessarily the best way to learn, because it's more of a kamikaze approach and you're not developing the same type of relationship with the cards. So while I knew the technical aspects of things from the beginning, I really struggled a little bit with the more intuitive aspects. I struggled a little bit more with the trusting of my gut, my intuition, my spirit guides as I looked at a card. So this is the method that I strongly, strongly recommend. As we move on and you start to look at the specific card meanings, journaling is another great place to do that, because you can start to quiz yourself and write down the card meanings before you decide you want to look them up in the book. So if you're doing your 3-card reading, you can sit down, you do your reading, you write down your own first impressions, your own keywords that you're working on developing for these cards, and you also write down your closest memory of the textbook definition or meaning of the card. And just, it's a slow process, but it's a rich process, and it's a great way to really dig into both learning the tarot and using it in a way that is productive and helpful while you're learning. It's not a situation where you have to master a certain level of technique or whatever to be able to get a lot out of it. And that's really what I'm trying to move forward here, is an understanding on people's parts that this doesn't have to be scary, difficult, or incredibly complicated. We just start small and we work our way up, and you end up being a kick-ass reader. So for now, simply work on your journal. Get yourself a plain old set of Rider-Smith weight cards, because they're I think some of the easiest to read. They are definitely not a good example of multicultural offering. They are definitely Northern European, Caucasian cards. My recommendation, though, is that that's a good place to start, and then once you get more comfortable with the card meanings, then you can move on to a deck that really, really resonates with you. And there are amazing and beautiful decks out there that range from a focus on nature and animals to, oh my gosh, Salvador Dali. I mean, all across the spectrum. And that's the point at which I would recommend finding a deck that really resonates with you and speaks to you from the perspective of your culture or whatever it is that resonates with you. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to spend a little bit with me. I know that you are probably extremely busy, as is everyone. So the fact that you're willing to spend a little bit of that time with me is definitely appreciated. And again, if you're interested in staying up to date on what's going on with the new tarot curriculum, the podcast episodes that will be coming out, and the courses and workshops, head over to www.moxxiecoaching.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you will be sure to receive everything before anyone else. Once again, thanks everyone. Have a fantastic week. If you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm on all of the social media platforms, and my email address, I do believe, is in the show notes.